My earliest memory is when my dad must have brought me to see my mother in the hospital when Mary Jo was born. Now, Mary Jo was born June 2nd, and I would have been 2 years old August 9th. And I remember, because in those days they kept him in the hospital in bed for 2 weeks after they had a baby. And Dad brought me to see Mother, and they brought some roses out of Grandma Grody's garden. I brought flowers to my mother. And I remember Mother rising up out of the bed, since I was her only child up until then. But that's a long time. I was, like I said, wasn't even 2 years. I was 22 months old about. That was my earliest memory. I grew up on Charmaine Circle. I was 3 when they moved there. And I think Mary Jo was probably the baby. And so that's where I lived there until I was 18. 15 years I lived on Charmaine Circle. They had rather humble backgrounds, but my dad became a pharmacist, which helped give him a career and so forth. And Mother's father died when she was quite young, and they kind of struggled along, both of them. Neither of them had a real cushy life, and again, they achieved what they did through their hard work and working together. Well, I was the firstborn, and they learned on me. I told my younger siblings, I cleared the forest for you, because they were a lot easier on them. And I mean, they weren't cruel to me, but I just didn't have much freedom when I wished I had, you know. And my dad said to me, when you get married and have your own kids, you can do this what you want with them, you know. Right now, you have to follow what we say that you have to do. No, it was a good childhood. We were secure, and you know, never want for any necessities. I was in the 3rd grade, so I was about 8 years old. And I remember the day that Pearl Harbor, that was the beginning of the war, and my dad's sister and her husband and children were there for dinner. And I'll never forget Dad and my uncle were both sitting by the radio. It was a floor model radio, and they were both sitting on it and listening to the radio all day long, because hearing the news. And I remember thinking, I know this is serious. I knew it was being marvelous to talk about, but I was having a good time with my cousins. But it was, and I always tell the younger people now, we were so involved in trying to help win the war. As little kids, we'd have scrap drives for scrap iron and metal, and we'd buy stamps. We could buy stamps for 10 cents and fill up a little book, and then we could get a savings bond with that, you know, if there's so many stamps run. And it was really an effort, even with kids as young as we were. We all were very much involved in helping win the war. I don't know what we did was so that that was our mindset. And we didn't have television. Of course, we didn't worry about listening to the news so much, but on Sundays we'd go to the movies and they'd have a newsreel, and they would tell us about different things. So we kind of kept in touch with what was going on in the war. And then when it was over, we rode around the neighborhood with tin cans tied to our bicycles, celebrating. I went to Blessed Sacrament Grade School, and I had a choice of 3 different girls' academies, and that was fine with it. I mean, that wasn't a problem. I mean, I didn't want to go anywhere else, but I chose Notre Dame, and most of my closest friends chose Villa Madonna. And so in a way, I kept friends with kids I grew up with in grade school, and then I made a whole new set of friends in high school. We're still friends. I was a freshman of the second semester of my freshman year when Dad bought the drugstore, and I started working there a little bit, but then as he knew I was dependable, and he knew I wouldn't steal from him. So Mary Jo and I both worked at the drugstore. We'd alternate. I'd work like from 3 to 6, and she'd come in from 6 to 10. because they were open until 10 o'clock. And then the next day we'd do it differently. So we worked at the store. And then when I graduated from high school, I chose to stay at the store. And I worked there full time. So that's when I graduated from high school. I joined in the September. I graduated in 51, and I joined the Theater Guild in September of 51. It was open to high school graduates, and it was called the Catholic Theater Guild. So, Catholic people. That's where I met your father. When I joined, he had some kind of, they had some people that kind of were officials in the Theater Guild, you know. And I used to wonder if I should call him Mr. Engelman, and because I was, you know, used to doing that. And then they had to get acquainted dance about a month or two after they would be off through the summer months. And I joined in September, so that's when we start going together. And I didn't call him Mr. Engelman anymore. We went together about a year, and the next August he gave me a cedar chest. And in those days, that's not done anymore, but it was kind of a pre-engagement gift. And so that's that over there. That's the cedar chest. And so then he gave me an engagement ring, I guess, the next Christmas. And we were married in 1953. Well, I suppose the birth of all my children is probably the best. He was born in September 15th, 1954. And we thought he was so cute and special, we get 8 more just like him. Well, when he was born, you were about 22 months old, I guess. And so we bought a second baby bed. And because we didn't think you were old enough to be out of your baby bed. And so Shrap was finishing that, refinishing. It took a lot longer than you think. And so Joe was in the bassinet for longer than he should have been. He was getting too big for it, and he'd look up, and Shrap said, he's going to be the funniest one of the outfit. I thought it was kind of funny that he called it pretty close. But he was, you know, he was a funny baby. He knew how to wink one eye and show his muscles. Andy, well, at the time when he was little, there was a princess over in India or something that her husband divorced her because she couldn't bear a male child, and I thought Andy should have been the one because he was a really pretty baby, and he thought he should have been royalty. I think he felt like he should have been royalty. We called him Prince Andrew. He's not like that now at all, but he was. But they were all precious and fun. Bernie came along, and I wasn't too excited when they told me I had a 4th boy. Then they brought him into me, and he twisted up his face, and he had big dimples, so I knew he was mine. He was a sweet child. Oh my goodness, that was big. We were so thrilled to have a girl finally. And she weighed more than all the boys. I remember the first time I put a pink outfit on her. God, she looks so beautiful. And I carried her around to all the neighbors. Look, you know, I never put pink on the boys. So we were, and your dad was thrilled to have a daughter too. I mean, you know, nothing wrong with the boys, but it was nice to have a girl. Bill, he came along, and he and Amy are the farthest apart, and I really enjoyed having him around, you know, him, the little ones, longer than most without having another baby. And he was a sweet child. And then Amy, that was our second girl. And we were really happy to have the second girl, but Amy, as everybody knows, she was a little more high-strung than the rest of the family. She didn't want anybody to look at her while she was eating breakfast. Tony, he was the philosopher. I remember all of the boys and kids, I'd say, "You're a sweet little boy, why don't you come and live with me and be my little boy?" And all of the other ones would giggle and say, you know, and I told that to him, and he said, "Mommy, God already made me for you." So I didn't think I could joke with him about that. And Matt, yeah, he was the baby, and I knew he was going to be the baby, and he was a sweet, easygoing child. And as you know, when he started walking, he toed in real badly. So the doctor fitted him with what they call the night bars. So they put your shoes on and had this bar and kept their legs real rigid. And so when you kids would come home from school, they'd go up to get Matt up from his nap and carrying him down by the night bar and swinging him like this, and I would have a fit, and he would laugh. So I thought, I guess it doesn't hurt him. His legs straighten out real quick.
What do you see as your legacy, and how do you want to be remembered?
That I love my kids. Nobody will ever know how much I love my kids. They're all so good to me. I didn't expect to do this. To think all of you get together and have a lot of fun together, and there's not any ugliness or nothing. Everybody just loves one another.
You gotta find your people, the ones that make you feel alright, the kind you wanna stay up with all night. You gotta find your people, the ones that make you feel whole. They won't leave your side when you lose control. The ones that don't let you lose your soul. You gotta find your people, the ones that get the joke, who understand what you're saying before a word is spoke. You gotta find your people that put the needle in the groove. When you're together, you got nothing to prove. When you're together, you got nothing to lose. In a world full of strangers, you don't know who to trust. All you see is danger, trying to find what you lost. You can't go it alone, everybody needs help. You gotta find your people, then you'll find yourself. You gotta find your people that'll call your bluff, who'll ride along when the road is rough. You gotta find your people, the ones that make you feel equal. They pick you up and don't put you down, help you find your way in the lost and found. In a world full of strangers, you don't know who to trust. All you see is danger, trying to find what you lost. You can't go it alone, everybody needs help. You gotta find your people, then you'll find yourself. The ones that understand gotta find your people, the ones that make you feel alright, that tell you the truth and wish you well. You gotta find your people, then you'll find yourself. You gotta find your people, then you'll find yourself.